So hopefully, I did talk through that at a rather quick rate. We could probably sit down, but I don't think anybody really has the appetite to go over that map in tremendous detail other than that, but you will be getting that information. So I'm just going to take a pause here for breath, and if you forgive me, I'm just going to have a sip of water. In cognizant of time, and in the next little while, we'll be talking to hopefully get some few Q&As coming in from the audience, and also now we'll be talking to Tommy and Mags. So, Mags, Tommy, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfectly.
Perfect, Peter.
Now, look, we've had the benefit of an earlier phone call today, and I did flip you guys an email. It wasn't an assignment to research, but I sort of showed you the names of the new entrants of the companies coming onto the map and the particular areas that they're involved in. Actually, I didn't call out Offer, by the way, OFR, which is a new entrant under Other. So forgive me there, guys, for not doing that, but you are on my list. First of all, Mags, I was just going to ask you a general question, given your background in fintech. Are you sort of surprised by the growth of the Indigenous community in financial technology?
Not one bit, Peter. I mean, I suppose it's all about the customer's experience at the moment, and it's whoever can provide the best technology. So there's so much space out there for everybody in this, and there's so much, I suppose, there's so much opportunity for new businesses within the partnership, within the payments space. But like, I suppose, and you touched off this earlier, I suppose banks, you know, like Bank of America had, you know, stated that they are a fintech bank. But if you look at what Transformate have done, even in the last 2-3 years, partnering with ING and AIB so that they could use our technology. I mean, the banks, you know, they can't inject into systems like we do. So with the RESTful API, which businesses, you know, use to connect right back into their ERPs and just make life easier. Like, it's all about getting payments done quickly. It's all about speed. It's also about, Peter, avoiding the SWIFT system and waiting for a payment to get today from say London, for example, to Hong Kong. Traditionally it would have taken a week, whereas when you see a business like Transformate doing it within 24 hours, it's kind of, I suppose, businesses just keep wanting more. And it's the same for the P2P space. I mean, if we're looking at the likes of Revolut, etc., and as we mentioned earlier, you can now stand up from a table, and we're in this cashless society, and we can split a bill on our phones, and you just keep wanting more. It's constant improvements from the technology companies like ourselves, you know.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much for that, Mags. There is this huge demand, and obviously the move, as we've seen in the articles talking about moving to a cashless society, is certainly there. And although I don't want to drag us down this path, but Tommy, a nice segue as well to you to talk about experience, is I noticed that the Banking and Payments Federation of Ireland yesterday put out a press release to discuss that like, is it 10% of all those that have a bank account in Ireland are over the age of 70? And so the concerns around cybersecurity, as that generation is not used to using financial technology, and obviously we've all seen the scams going around via text and all the rest. But look, maybe somewhere there, I know you want to talk about the user experience. So picking up what Mags just spoke about, again, are you surprised by the growth of this sector in Ireland, financial technology?
No.
And what do you think it's telling us?
Not at all. I think, if you look at the map that you just put up there, Peter, if you look at it as a whole in its totality, and also back down into the focus of payments, every business, every technology company that has sprouted up there, be it in the last 5, 6, 7 years or only in the last year, it's a take on a piece of the fintech market. So it's a better user experience, be it one of your new entrants there, Credit Logic, you know, it's mortgage origination. It could be Offer, as you say, a different way of all around basically getting a better experience for the consumer. And from a banking perspective, anything that helps the consumer to have a frictionless payment, have a frictionless and quick and convenient experience is better for them. Just a tip on the point you made there, I got kind of, you broke up halfway through, but I think you were talking about the over 65 and something came out last night. But like, you know, it is massively important around the education, the digital education of those customers and users. Like we've seen in the last 4 weeks alone, 3 of our European banks have come to us and gone up their MAUs. There's a massive digital surge going on for onboarding, and it's very easy for, you know, that generation, and we're making a sweeping generalization there, because lots of the older generation are better on the mobile phones or on the online than ourselves, but actually it's massively important that they don't fall between the gaps. All right, and you can see some of the Irish banks coming out in the last couple of days with specific phone numbers. You're seeing all around trying to get to keep the experience or better the experience for that customer. So I look at it; it doesn't surprise me in any shape or form. I think it will expand, because what you're seeing is the digitization of all of the the disintermediation, for example, but also the digitization of the journeys. And what's going to happen is you're going to see lots of partnering going forward.
No, thanks very much for that, Tommy. And then something else I was just going to point out, and again, I might just quickly put that map back up as I'm talking here. I'm going to hit the share screen button again, folks. And as I do that, I hope you can see that now. And this is that map again. What surprises me, maybe doesn't what surprise me, because I think I might just ask this question of you guys. These companies that are on this map, now the vast majority have all done the survey, and I use that opportunity just to clean up a few of the things that are on the map while we're talking. But just having a look at it as a depiction, right? When I look at the survey and some of the questions we asked, and one I just wanted to pull out because we're going to do a separate webinar on the survey data, the pie charts and all the rest. But when we've asked the firms, where does Ireland sit as their number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 jurisdiction for expansion? Actually, Ireland is not the number 1 jurisdiction for expansion. Actually, when you ask them, it's becoming, you know, it's looking at the UK, the rest of Europe, and particularly the USA. Now, so that's where they want to provide their services. And Tommy, you said in the last piece, you mentioned 3 banks. I mean, I'm guessing, I don't know whether you can say where those banks, who those banks are, and I don't want you to necessarily, but can you tell us, are they international clients, or are they local firms?
They're both international and national. So national banks and also international banks. And also we have a trading platform in there as well that is also surging with digital. And basically it is now, the digital is the new norm. We're working remotely from home. People are doing a hell of a lot more. They have to do their banking. They have to do all their payments through these new technologies, or technologies that they weren't leaning into as much before. So yeah, and that's from our perspective, that just fits right into our bag, because we help those digital journeys and automating of them from a messaging perspective. So be it service type messaging, where we're alleviating the stress that a payment has gone through or a direct debit has been cancelled, or if it's just tapping your phone for a coffee and getting that kind of alert, transaction alert to say, actually, you know what your spending habits are on a daily basis. That's going to become more and more, it is right now from a COVID, I shouldn't say the word, but from a COVID point of view, people are very stressed, and they want to know, you know, sorry, another stat, and this is, you know, a global stat, but in every single financial use case, the opens and the interactions with online banking or online fintechs or online challenger banks, all right, and mobile apps have quadrupled in the last month. So if an average open of your bank balance was 25 to 30 a month, it is now 120 to 150 times a month. That shows you the underlying concerns of the customers of these financial institutions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. And so if I just take that question across to Margaret,
Yeah.
International expansion, obviously, Transformate is but one example in the world of payments here in Ireland. And you mentioned the heading overseas. And look, it was said to me in London not so long ago, and we also heard at the event with Modular earlier in the month, two interesting comments. I think the one that was said to me, actually the one that Stephen from Modular sort of said was, payments has gone from boring to the boardroom, was number one, and I can see you smile there, Mags. And number two, I heard in London was that, God, a payments company now is basically a compliance firm, which happens to point itself at payments, right?
Yeah.
And I have some sympathy for that, given the amount of regulation around payments and also the heightened level of risk that some banks apply when dealing with payments companies. So, Mags, bit of a tough question. What do you think about that one in terms of the expansion, and has regulation helped or hindered the expansion, do you think, of Irish fintech locally and overseas? What's your view on that?
I suppose if you really think about it, right, your product within payments is your regulatory footprint, right? And we have invested all of these years in our global licenses. So when we got pan-US, that was just one of the biggest things, right? And even like earlier today now, we're looking at what we're doing in Indonesia. So we have continuous roadmap and plan for our regulatory footprint. It's the only way forward to be steps ahead of the game, you know. And I guess along with, you know, we are a regulatory firm, like, and it's all about regulation and a global footprint. I laugh at this comment, like payments, you know, it's now the boardroom. Like payments has become, you know, we're gone away from like boring, archaic way to actually being like, not exciting, but it's a technology. So, and I guess having the ability to be injected in with some of our partners like TradeShift, who would deal with all businesses within the supply chain that are incredibly busy at the moment. And within TradeShift's ecosystem, Transformate is an app in there, which again, I'm coming back to experience for the customer, but that's what it's all about. And when we're speaking with enterprise clients, the expectation is that everything is seamless. And like, I suppose it comes back to, it's not just about savings on money anymore. It's back to how easy we're going to make things and we're going to change things from within their system. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing would be that, like, you know, I'm often speaking with friends and they're saying, okay, but how much is your technology? Like, what's the price of it? And you're like, well, this is SaaS technology. It's online. You can use Transformate pretty much straight away. Like, yes, there's development time around an API, but other than that, it's something which can be implemented really, really quickly. And I also wanted to point out as well, just on your comments around, you know, which banks to Tommy. I can openly speak about our relationship with Wells Fargo, which, look at the third biggest bank in the US. It was like one of our biggest achievements last year to launch our relationship with them. The fact that Wells Fargo actually decided, you know what, let's not invest in doing what Transformate did. Let's just partner with them, use and utilize their global licenses to receive funds to give their clients a full 360 experience, you know, so they can the offering for Wells is now, you know, they always made payments, but now using TransferMate, you can receive them as well. So, and that's like, I suppose, you know, payments organizations are partnering with one another as well.
Yep.
And that's another interesting piece. And, you know, that's, you know, something that we would have all the time of, you know, in dialogue with different businesses similar to ourselves, that, you know, we can leverage our, you know, work together to where we see synergy, you know. But
I might add to that. I might add to that, Margaret. So you talk about boredom to boardroom.
Yes.
I have again, back to the customer experience, but it's all around payments. The reason payments is such a sexy product and growing like a weed still, and will continue to. Yes, there is a product within payments for all of these fintechs, but it's all around the data. So because there's a better way, what these payment companies are doing, right? They have a better product for the market fit, okay? But they're also, and this is one of the problems, but also the opportunities for the fintechs is they're basically getting a much better data set from these customers. If you look at Monzo, what is Monzo leading with? Monzo is leading with customer experience. They're getting all the discretionary spend. You're getting all their salaries pumped in. So your salary might be pumped into your kind of your main bank, and then it's transferred out for all the discretionary spend. So what's happening here is a disintermediation again in relation to payments. So all of these payment companies are getting all this really rich data, all right, where they have the ability then to go to segment and personalize their offer. So be it a transfer, be it splitting bills, being it loyalty, all within that payment section. And the reason it has got so much airtime in the boardroom is because the boardroom executives have now caught on to, actually, it isn't just about the end outcome or the speed and the convenience. That is the outcome. But if we can also harness this data that we're getting, then we're going to be able to personalize the experience more and more in real time and all that. And that, I think, is one of the major reasons. And I think that, you know, I suppose just to add to that, you also mentioned, Margaret, around partnering. I think what you're going to see coming out of COVID, firstly, is when we all get to the other side. So let's say we're all going to get to the other side and we're going to be much fitter, because I can personally say our organization is a much fitter organization in the last 4 weeks, even with everybody remote working, than they were 4 weeks ago. But they're going to come out, and there's going to be massive opportunities for fintech payments or regtech or any sort of fintech company to capitalize on, because banks, this surge in digital users, they're going to be handling their core systems, and unfortunately, they're in you know, they have to make sure that the lights are kept on, because they still have the gold, they have the customer database. So they're going to have to, because customers we're in this kind of instant gratification world, right? And they're going to go, we want the experience that TransferMate is giving us, all right? We want the experience that, you know, mortgage applications, all of that kind of good stuff. And so they're going to be not just forced, but they're going to want to partner much quicker, because they need to get to the end result, which is a better customer experience. And because of the legacy technology, legacy operation, legacy, you know, things that go into very large banks, all right, that we all know from a compliance, regulatory, and just operational standpoint, it is very hard to move at that lightning pace that a TransferMate or any of these other more nimble fintechs can work at. So I think those two things are, you know, are actually connected, you know.
And what I was going to do here, folks, is actually there's I'm not quite sure how I use the Q&A button. If you're an attendee and you're listening and you can ask a question on the Q&A, feel free to do that. However, there's a lot of questions coming through on the chat. So I might just pick a few of those and just throw them into the audience, throw them out to the panel members. Now, before I do that, as we said, we don't want to jump into the COVID-19 debate and all the rest too much at the moment. There is a question that has come up about that, but you know, like a lot of us here on the call, we watch all sorts of international news. It's very interesting to see how different governments in terms of putting money into the pockets of small to medium-sized enterprises, which it seems like in every country is the backbone of that particular country, from Australia to the UK, to the US, to Ireland. Now, one criticism has come up, especially in the UK, and that is from some of the financial technology companies that were born after the last financial crisis. They argue that they aren't on government lists, the list of banks that can distribute the support from a government, right? So I'm not going to pick on any particular country here, but that's one I've heard from the UK, and I've heard one from elsewhere. If we look at what we have in Ireland, we have a large number of fintechs, and we saw the credit and lending side of it. I mean, is there a potential opportunity here for the government? And maybe you've got to be very careful here as well, because there'll be arguments that they're not the same as a bank, etc. But is there an opportunity for the government to provide that financing if we go down that path in relation to cheaper loans for SMEs, to use the model to be distributed through those sort of credit and lending fintechs? I'm not looking for you to overanalyze it too much, but do you think is there something there, or is it best to leave that to the larger incumbents?
Sorry, do you want to go, Mark, or will I?
Oh, sorry, I'll say that to Margaret. Yeah.
Sorry.
I suppose, right, the obvious industries have been really, really affected by this. And I think, if we look at the car dealerships, etc., they're all in dire straits right now. How long that will continue for, look, nobody is certain at the moment. But I think definitely if some kind of funding was to be provided for them, for when they get back up and running, that's what's going to be really, really important. But for now, I think what we're seeing with some of the SMEs, which we have had on board and that are part of this whole supply chain thing, is cash flows. So they need their products, so they need the product really, really quickly. But it's cash flows for that, so and that's what I mean. Any of the businesses, honestly, even the largest companies in the world that I'm speaking to at the minute that are involved in the supply chain, cash flows for them is even an issue right now, not just the SME. So I kind of think if they're going to do something for the SMEs, the larger multinationals are going to need that support as well, because some of them are the lifeblood of their countries, and given the number of people that they would employ as well. But I think, yes, definitely finance will be crucial and key to helping them getting back on their feet again. Transmate ourselves, we've been lucky enough, we are not dependent on any one market, right? And as you said earlier on, Peter, how Australia are looking at this, how Great Britain and America, they're all looking at it in different ways. So and we're seeing that, but what I can simply say is that it is cash flows right now is key for them to get their products in on time. Yeah,
that's great. Tommy, I'll just throw it to you quickly for a quick answer, because there's a few questions in the last 5 minutes I want to get from the panelists. So if you have a quick answer to that question as well on funding via the fintechs for SMEs, throw it out. But if not, I can jump straight into the Q&As from the audience.
I think multinationals will, for want of a better word, will be okay, as in cash flow is very, very tight, but they will get funding easier. I think SMEs, where we need to concentrate and the government needs to concentrate on it. I think there is already in Ireland, as of last night, there's, SBCI have come out with loads of stuff. There's some really good packages out there, and anybody listening who has that kind of business, they should be looking at those packages if in need. But because I do think, long story short, I think it's the SMEs that will need the help on the way through here, because of that kind of absolute quick stop in buying behavior.
That's perfect. I did say, look, quick comment here. I won't say the person's surname. Maybe everybody can see the surnames, everybody who's putting their messages in, but you can? Nope. Okay. So, John, you know who you are, and I know who you are, so I can see your full name. John says, I entirely agree with Margaret. If you look at the FT commentary today, there are a significant number of large companies that can't raise capital in the UK. Government will need to help them first and quickly because they will lose tens of thousands of jobs, which will not be recovered. Fair point.
Absolutely.
I've got two questions I'm going to blend into one, and probably just a quick short answer on this because we could again go down a rabbit hole here. Question from Dan is, how far is Ireland's central bank in terms of regulated open banking and soon open finance? And the other one actually is that question. And I think maybe you could argue that the Central Bank of Ireland's a lot further down the path now than they were a few years ago in terms of regulated open banking and soon actually the wider issue of open finance. Would either of you like to just pop in for 30 seconds each on that?
I mean, honestly, we give the Ireland Central Bank a hard time here because that's what we know, and that's, you know, they're a regulator. But if we start to even think for a minute about the US and how each of the states over there operate and work, it's a whole different ball game. So I actually don't think we're too bad here, to be honest, Peter.
Tommy, is the Central Bank doing enough on open banking? Or is it just...
Yeah, well, I think the open banking point, you know, I wouldn't add anything to what Margaret said. Open banking is do the banks want to play in open banking? If they want to play in open banking, Ireland is a small territory, but there is plenty of fintechs and plenty of partnering opportunities where banks can really, it becomes a win-win, but it becomes, do banks actually really, is it just a regulatory compliance issue, or do they want to play in this game? If they want to play in this game, which by the way, in my opinion, over the next 5 years, if they do play, they will be further ahead because that's where we are going to be. Then they need to, if that happens, we'll all be winners from a consumer perspective.
Okay. And look, I know one or two people are trying to ask a question. I think just given where we are, it will be difficult to open it up to a verbal question coming in from the audience. I'm just more concerned about the technology. This is our first attempt. I would want to balance that last question off regarding the central bank. And in fairness, there's a question from Dan, which wasn't criticising the CBI. Of course, Dan, in your question, you're asking about the progress. One here from Andrew, who says that he's working with a new insurtech company. That insurtech has actually chosen Ireland, he says, for a number of reasons, with the main one being the knowledge of the central bank in regulating the fintech sector. So, does the panel believe the fintech surge in Ireland is being facilitated in large by the Irish Central Bank? So, quick yes, no, maybe, the same in every jurisdiction. Promising to hear it's insurtech is one of the areas we sort of said.
I'll leave this one to Margaret because we don't have to be regulated. So I take it you're dealing with the regulators more than I, Margaret.
Yeah, and it is, and I mean, yes, it is. Like we have to adhere to the central bank, but it gives us the credibility when it comes to other markets and trying to get into, you know, like getting licensed all around the world. It comes back to, well, if you couldn't really do it in your home country and have the backing and support of your own regulator, like it is to be honest, Peter, but that's a given for us in our industry, you know.
I don't want to take it down that path. So, I mean, I think that's a fair answer. And I think the person's just sort of saying, look, and I think it's a great point, is that, you know, is an area which, you know, on the map you can see it's a small percentage. Be great to see it challenging your area, Mags, of payments. The last thing I'll just sort of point out is one last question here was we are seeing a transition. I might just read this out as a comment. We are seeing a transition in the payments segment where customers are more inclined towards the services which offer a seamless experience and better control over finances. So not really a question, more of a statement, but will the governments act towards not handling out the regulatory licenses or making the regulations more stringent? So I guess it's more like a question of, are we potentially running a risk of strangling the innovation through licensing and regulation. I think what we may do is we're coming up to 2 minutes past the hour. So I thought that was an interesting comment. I thought I'd just read that out. So no question at you all. We've got a few other great questions. I wish we had more time, and I think the lesson for me here is that, well, obviously the map was the big thing that we're here today, is that when we do the next presentation, we'll go into the Q&As a lot earlier, but we did have to go through the map for today. Look, what I'll just do is I'll finish up by sort of saying thanks for the comments and questions that are coming through. They're really great. Thank you, John. Thanks, Simon. I just saw your question pop up. The COVID-19 questions popped up in relation to payments as well. Thanks for that question there as well, Maeve. But again, look, what I'd ask is, have a look at the map when we have it out and it's all released. Just put it up there quickly again. Just to explain that in order, the map, again, it's a FinTech island map, the amount of time and effort put into it. So it's sort of powered now by CompuReg, which you'll see in the little island map there. So much appreciate that. Now, I'm going to hit the stop share button on the map. I think we've hit 2 o'clock. People are going to start dropping off now. I can see the numbers dropping down below 90 now. And I'd like to say that we'll get this map out to everybody. We'll get some more information. If the technology has worked, Tommy, if the technology has worked, Mags, this will then be an open broadcast that will be available to be downloaded either from our website or indeed from Zoom Direct. So what I'll do is I want to say, Margaret, thank you very much for all your time and effort. And I know you're really, really busy. Thanks very much for that.
Very welcome.
Tommy, listen, mate, same to you. Really great to have you here. And listen, I want a special call out to Susan, who's been working behind the scenes as well. I know she spent a lot of time looking at different sort of audio and video platforms that we're all looking at the moment. So thanks very much, Susan, for your help there. Ruth has been here working away as well. And many thanks to her for assisting me with the map. So without further ado, I'm going to press the end recording button and I'm going to say thank you to everybody. Apologies that we didn't get all the questions out. But we are doing seminars. I would say we're going to do another one next week and the week after. So hopefully one every week for the month of April. But if you are still online and you have an idea for a webinar, and in fairness, this one came about from a discussion I had with Tommy, and here we are less than a week later doing the webinar. So I'm more than happy to talk to others that want to do a webinar on the topics, whether it's RegTech, banking, or whatever else. So listen, guys, thanks very much for your time. Really appreciate it. And I wish you all a safe and happy Easter and get as much downtime as you can with the family. I know you guys everywhere out there have had a real stressful time the last couple of weeks.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks everyone. And thanks for having us, Pete.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody.